Hi guys, Miss Owens here. This week we are going to look into a review of our infinitives. This is actually the last big content area we have to get through until the end of the year. When you go into Latin 4, you need to know your participles really well and you need to know your infinitives really well. So we're here on that final slope. Good work. Let's get started. Okay, cool. So this word infinitive comes from that same word that infinite comes from. And here I have an infinity sign, something you're probably familiar with. Something that's infinite doesn't have an ending, right? It goes on and on forever. And that's exactly true of the grammatical infinitive as well. They do not have one of our personal endings that shows a subject. So like ost, mustis enti, or for the passive, arister, mer, mini, inter, no endings. They go on and on. They're infinite, infinitives. All right, you've got a worksheet to go along with this, and in just a minute here, I'm going to be giving you some notes for that worksheet, but let's do this basic definition that is at the top of the page of your worksheet. An infinitive is a special name given to a Latin verb form that is translated as to blank. The infinitive that you know well, that you see regularly, that you learned way back in Latin 1, believe it or not, is called the present active infinitive. Typically, when we say infinitive, we're kind of using shorthand for that more specific term. Just like we might use your first name in class, this is the full name of that grammatical form. It is present, showing its tense. It is active, that shows its voice, and it's a type of thing known as an infinitive. So that's its full proper name. So here, this is going to go onto your worksheet. I'm going to give you 3 rules about the present active infinitive, and I'd like you to copy them down. So rule number 1, the present active infinitive, which you can go ahead and abbreviate as PAI. The present active infinitive is the second principal part of every verb. So whenever I give you a vocab list, whenever I give you a gloss, whenever you have a dictionary in front of you, you're always going to get your verb forms spelled out in the same way, and the second principal part is always the infinitive. Right? Number 2, the present active infinitive usually ends in RE. Pretty good hint, easy to spot. Exceptions are some irregular verbs like sum esse, which means to be. It's where we get words like est, is. It's irregular. You just can't look out for those. But almost all of them, 98% of them, end in re. So good rule of thumb. And third and final rule of the present active infinitive is that it usually translates as to blank, to blank. You're going to see this for all infinitives that we practice from here until the end of the year. Something that has to do with to. We're going to add something to that, changing the tense and the voice mostly. But to is a good starter for all infinitives. All right. You know them, you love them. These are your conjugations. This is how you can identify which conjugation a verb is. This would be a good time to maybe take a screenshot or potentially to just write them down and put them on a Post-it note and stick it to the side of your laptop. Just something handy because these do not go away. You learned them way back, Latin 1 and Latin 2. They were really super important as you went through all of your different tenses for your verbs and your voices. This year, no different. Next year, just the same. So you should know these, right? The way that we've written them out here on the left-hand side, we've got the first principal parts ending and then the second principal parts ending. As you know from the previous slide, the second principal part is called the infinitive. And here we all see those RE endings. Cool. So let's do some examples. Let's test ourselves a little bit. If we get a word like moeo, E-O, mowere, E-R-E with the long mark, which conjugation do we have? You say second? That would be correct. If not, take a second and just look at this. E-O, match it to the first column of endings there. There's only one that ends in E-O. And then long mark E-R-E. Again, these jump right off the page if you just know what you're looking for. All right, let's do one more. Punio, punire. Take a second, figure out which conjugation you got. Did you say fourth? That would be correct. That's fourth conjugation. All right, maybe you're saying, wow, Miss Owens, that is so easy. I could do that with my eyes closed. Well, that's what I want you to do. Not close your eyes, of course. I'd like you to go to your worksheet, which I'll show you here. You have a copy of this in your classroom, and you've just copied down your 3 rules. And now I'd like you to do this right here for the following verbs. Bold the present active infinitive. So find that second principal part. Yes, it's super easy. It's going to take you 1 second to do. And then I'd like you to bold the correct conjugation number for that verb. So for instance, in the first one, audio, audire, bold that thing right there, right? Change that one to bold. Love it. And because it's I-O-I-R-E, super easy. That's just like punio, puniere, the one we just did together. You're going to bold the 4th conjugation for that one. So go through those. Maybe pause the video here for a second and just knock that out. All right, are you back? I'm moving on. Okay. So what we're doing for the rest of this worksheet is changing those infinitives from the active to the passive. These are written out on your paper, but it's good for you to take a look at them and see how they work, okay? So to form the present passive infinitive, you're going to take off the last 3 letters of the second principal part, likely the 3 letters you've just been looking closely at to figure out which conjugation you had. These last 3 letters, again, are going to end in RE for all of our examples, okay? So for the first one, A-R-E changes to A-R-I. Long mark E-R-E changes to long mark E-R-I. E-R-E without a long mark, both for third and for third I-O, just changed to just the letter I. And then finally, 4th conjugation goes from I-R-E to I-R-I. If you're thinking you've seen these before, yes, you have. This is just a review, so you can take a look at your previous notes if you need to, if you want to. But here it is. I'm presenting it to you like it's brand new, so we're all in a fresh start here. So A-R-I, E-R-I, I, I-R-I. You take off the last 3 letters and replace. If you're saying, Miss Owens, it looks like I could just take off the last E and change it with an I. I would agree, but 3rd conjugation, per usual, has to be kind of a stick in the mud, and we have to take off all 3 letters and replace them with just the letter I, okay? All right, here's an example. Amare. You know what? You love it. In fact, it means to love, right? We have that R-E ending, specifically A-R-E. If we want to change that to the passive, we're going to take off all 3 letters, A-R-E, and replace them with A-R-I, Amari. Easy. If you'd like to, you could pause the video again and go through the second section on your worksheet, which is literally just doing what I just told you to do. Take a second. If you'd like to follow with me, though, I've got like a couple minutes left on the video, and I'm going to show you how to translate them, which will take care of not only section 2, but then section 3 as well. And then you'll be done. So to translate your passive infinitives, still going to start with to. I told you that infinitives will start with to, and there's no exception here. We're going to make it passive. Passive forms use be, being, or been, right? I always say that. Be, being, or been helps make something passive. You've heard me say it 50 times this year, I'm sure. So to translate the passive infinitive, it's to be blanked. So let's take a look at an example, right? Amare, A-R-E, means to love. To love. So if I change the form to amari, we have the passive infinitive here. How does this change the translation? To be loved. Super easy, right? So that is all you need to know for your review today. Short and sweet, and I hope that you find the worksheet is just as easy as this little review has been. Don't forget to check the Google Classroom for an update about the Latin pledge. If you've got any questions about that or anything else, my office hours are every day, 9 to 10 a.m., and I'm always available through email. So please, just let me know how I can help you. I miss you guys. Hope you're doing well. Stay safe.